Is a joint session with the Chamber of Commerce, Economic with the Chamber of Commerce, I thought I was going to say, and Office of Economic Development, to discuss the economic development plan. And we have with us Aaron and Leslie and Gwen. Anybody else coming out? Farley and Natalie. Anybody else? We have former president of the Chamber, Marcy Morrison. Aren't you formerly president of the Chamber? Huh?
I was administrator for the chamber.
I thought you were president of the chamber board. Never mind. Well, anyway, welcome. You all are gonna, we have about 45 minutes allocated. Does that seem like enough time for you guys?
If we're gonna discuss all three topics, it might be a little bit short.
Okay. How about this? How about we check in at about 30, 45 minutes and see where we are? Presumably we want to do it in one round, so council, everybody okay with that? You know, one thing we did not do, and I'm not sure why we didn't do it, but do we typically do a roll call for a work session? No, we did. Okay. Councilman Smith, what did you do? Oh, she's left. So maybe just ask her, how come we don't have a roll call on here? It's on for the special meeting, but that'll come later. So anyway, Councilman Smith. Here. Councilman Todd, I would like to ask at some point, perhaps even tonight, that we can talk about how we're handling excused versus non-excused absences. I did review the charter, I did tell there was a council prerogative whether to excuse or not excuse. So Councilman Todd asked to be excused tonight, but since that is now I know it is a council discussion or a council issue, I would like to have some direction from council, and again, maybe not this moment, but we need to figure that out.
And I would say Judy has some good recommendations for that.
Okay.
For doing that.
Great. We have Pro Tem Fortune present, Mayor Jerez present, Councilwoman Elder here, Councilwoman Walbrook is not here. By the way, Councilman Todd is not present, and Councilman Rohr here. All right. And the first item, as I already called, was the joint session with the Chamber of Commerce. Welcome. And what would you like to tell us or discuss?
Thank you for having us. And Aaron, we're gonna let Aaron present the economic development plan that was recently adopted by the board of directors.
And it's my understanding that everyone's had a chance to view the economic development plan. I guess we'll start off if anyone has any questions before we get going.
And the economic development plan incorporated into the document that we have in front of us, this is what we're talking about.
Correct. And if you'd like a hard copy, we'll also have hard copies that we'd be happy to give you as well. Just let us know, we can hand it over.
Okay, great.
So again, are there any questions before we get started discussing that?
I have comments, and I think I'll let you do your thing and then give you my comments. I don't really have any questions
Okay.
per se.
So the economic development plan is part of our role, or the Chamber of Commerce's role as Visitors Bureau and an Office of Economic Development. So that the Chamber is managing quite a number of responsibilities, and one of those, of course, as a Chamber of Commerce, is supporting the local business community. But from Plan Manitou, there are a lot of larger economic development goals that the Office of Economic Development is trying to support. And so this plan takes a lot of those recommendations and creates a 3-year plan, basically getting us started to provide action toward those Plan Manitou goals. So the goals that the Chamber came up with, which are for the end of the document, are intended to be revised annually based on our accomplishments and the progress that we make. All of these are taken from Plan Manitou with input from stakeholders and also the Chamber Board as well on where to prioritize action in order to be most effective. So these do relate back to Plan Manitou's economic development goals and conversations that we've had with business owners as well as with City Council about what our economic development priorities should be.
Okay, so we're going to focus on then the 2019 Chamber goals and the 2019 action steps. Is Is that where we're focusing
Sure.
most of our discussion at this point?
And I would like to clarify, 2019 chamber goals, that does set the tone for the next 1 to 3 years. We don't necessarily think that we'll make giant strides by the end of this year, given that it's September. But as you can see from our action steps, we definitely have a lot of work starting now to prepare for the next 2 years.
Council, questions, comments? Becky, you had some comments, I think?
Well, I do, I read the whole thing. First off, you don't mention residents. You know, there's people who live here, and that's kind of what the base of my feedback is on. Because that's all I do is hear from residents, and when I was looking through this, it's like you're trying to increase the economic dependence, well, no, that's a quote. If you increase our economic dependence on tourism, the residents' satisfaction goes down. This is a trend that is true. We already have unhappy residents. I see in here that we're planning more events, we're planning bigger events, and we're planning larger events on either end. And I'm just not so sure that that's what residents are looking for. And as an environmentalist, when we keep getting higher and higher and higher profit margins, you know, growth, 3% growth, you can have it all tonight. 3% growth, I believe, doubles, the whole thing doubles like in 11 years or something. I mean, I don't wanna double what we have now. I don't want more of what we have now. The people I talk to, I mean, the people who live here want to have a quality of life. And if we're bringing in, you know, the goal is to bring in more visitors, we already don't have enough room now. And if somebody doesn't agree with me, I wish they would speak up right now, because the traffic is awful. People you talk to never go down. I talk to people who never go downtown. I don't go downtown anymore, period. When I go downtown in the morning, we go down for breakfast and stuff, but we don't go downtown. It's just not our town. And I think I read through this, that bothers me a whole bunch. I don't see a lot of local in it. We have farms, we have a farmer's market, we have local food. I don't see any focusing on the local economy, the people who, 40 years ago, there was so much in-home economy, which I don't know that we have anymore, but I don't see the chamber promoting that either. I'm the one who calls and goes, I need an electrician. Who do we have in town that does we don't know, I can Google it. Well, I can Google it, I'm trying to find my local electrician, and it's a big gap in the focus of the chamber not to know who's in town. We have electricians, we have plumbers, we have cement people, we have cement people. You know, we have all these skills in town that the chamber doesn't, I think I'm talking loud enough, they're getting it. The chamber is clueless about who's doing what. I mean, every time I call, it's like, oh, I can Google that. I can Google it. I don't wanna Google it, I wanna empower my own local economy. And beyond that, you know, more people, our natural environment is being severely beaten down by just being loved to death. So, I mean, when I read through this, increased events, increased visitations, increased traffic, and nothing for the residents. So that's pretty much, you know, I went to Briefed by the Bell, where you got all this information, doesn't say anything about the environment. And where we are is that the environment is collapsing before our very eyes. And so I think it was a big disconnect to not include some of that future vision based on what people are telling me and the part of the community that I represent. So apparently nobody disagrees with me because nobody's saying anything.
And I would like to respond to some of your comments.
Yeah, are you looking at this page, the goals and actions?
No, I'm looking at the email that I wrote when I was looking at the page at home.
Okay, cause the
So
12
I've got it
action
right here.
items, I think it's the sustainability of special events, which is addressed, it does not say increase, it says evaluate the
I was reading
sustainability.
through-
Hold on a second. Mr. Chacha, you are more than welcome to participate, but we are gonna ask you to come up so that we can get you
Oh, sure.
on a microphone so that those people that are watching this can hear the full story.
Well, no, and obviously these folks can respond too, but I think that, I feel like looking at the goals and actions, I feel like particularly, develop an employee strategy for insurance, a living wage, retirement, and being able to live in your town. It's very, for me, actually, this doesn't actually feel very,
Reading
growth focused.
Reading through your PowerPoint, I mean, I can read through it again and find this if you want, because I pulled all those notes out of reading this, about bringing in more events, increased visitation in shoulder and off seasons. The chamber continues to add events, including several in the high season. Really? We need more in the high season? So this is what I'm reading. This is what I'm reading. And so, I mean, I don't see anything in here that is directed towards someone who lives here and who wants to live here and wants to have a walkable community lifestyle, rather than a elbow to elbow with a bunch of strangers. So that's my feeling.
So I just wonder, and feel free to chime in, but I just wonder if we're addressing that comment to the right group.
I would like to speak specifically about how this plan responds to some of those comments. Those are comments that we've received as well. And we did try to incorporate them into this plan. On page 8, you can see that we do reference an increase in economic dependence on tourism does lead to a decrease in resident attitudes toward tourism. So that's something that we're conscious of. Additionally, about sustainability in the environment, actually, modern tourists are sort of different. Tourism development is very different than it used to be. It used to be very gimmicky, and now with ecotourism, there is a lot of focus on preserving areas, both culturally, environmentally, and the quality of life. And so this plan, we don't necessarily talk about increasing events or the visitation from events.
I just read that to you.
Correct. It does talk about some of our current practices and how we're evaluating those to see how they're actually impacting the community. Speaking of events, one thing that we focused on a lot in our most recent events, especially our larger events, is the impact of parking on residents. Those can be difficult days with the RPPs and people, visitors to town not following the signs. And we have focused on providing additional information to those visitors to make sure that they're not impacting the residents quite the way that they have in the past.
Well, one thing that we might do, there were 147 tickets given out. I can't remember the time frame. What did they get? A month before or something like that? So my number may be off, but over 100 tickets given out to people parking in residential parking areas recently. That's a lot of people getting tickets.
For our events, we are definitely responsible for providing that information. As far as other tourists who come to town, we do provide parking information on our visitor website.
I believe it may have been, someone correct me if I'm wrong, we got that report. Was it specifically in relation to Labor Day? Or was it a general?
It was a marathon.
Oh,
It was the marathon.
Okay, they
Which
sent
we
marathon.
don't
Yeah, yeah.
have anything to do with.
Right. I think I'm just pointing out that obviously we do have an issue with people not knowing where to go, people getting tickets, and presumably those big 100 and some odd people who got tickets probably weren't so happy. I'm guessing. So, yeah, Marathon Ascent is maybe it's an exception, maybe it's just another event, but apparently causes some issues.
I'd like to say one thing now. I don't wanna just be the bad guy here. This is who I am and who I have been. And things are getting so critical in our climate, in case people aren't noticing. We have to stop doing business as usual. We have to stop acting like we can keep doing this forever because we're running out of things. We're running out of birds, we're running out of insects. We're running out of clean water, we're running out of clean air. I know we don't worry about our air until we can see it. Then we worry about it, but we're already having problems. So I'd like to see some real creative, something different than just bringing tourists to town. Tourists will always come to Manitou, they always have. But at some point, we stop being special and we just start being like prostitutes or something. Forgive my language. You know what I'm saying? And so, you guys can hate me as much as you want, but this is a real issue for me and for other people too.
And one of your comments that you've made, is something that we are trying to evaluate, especially with goal number 2, the regional tourism sustainability planning. That's a conversation that is going on regionally, but that we would like to be involved in. And to better understand the capacity for tourism in Manitou Springs, we may have already reached it.
Yes.
So how can we, and this is something that we are evaluating, how can we adapt our tourism focus to include the visitors who tread lightly and also spend more money? Arts and culture is one of them. This is not reflected necessarily in the plan, but it is an initiative with the Manitou Springs Creative District. Manitou Made, highlighting locally made goods, understanding that there may be a difference in cost, but that would be warranted because they are being made by local artisans, artists, makers, and so that's a project that we're working on. Another, one thing you've mentioned several times and that we have taken to heart is how to promote service industries in Manitou Springs, so local businesses. You're right, we don't necessarily have a wealth of that information, in part because as a tourism community, joining the chamber traditionally has benefited tourist serving organizations. So the shops that sell items to tourists. We are, with the launch of our new website, trying to find better ways to highlight those local service industries. Those are ongoing conversations, and unfortunately, I don't have any answer for you right now about what that will look like, but I do want you to know that those are conversations that we have heard. Every time you've called in, that's definitely got us
That's right, you
thinking.
answer the phone.
Correct. So we've definitely registered those comments and again are trying to work. They're not included in this because that's, as far as supporting local businesses, goal number 9 is one of them, talking about a walkable community. Allowing people to live and work in town. Currently that's very difficult, so ways that we can support employees. That supports businesses who are able to hold on to quality employees and those employees who are able to join and be a part of the community. So that's certainly a focus. Another one, again, supporting local businesses is giving them help on permitting processes. That can be very difficult and cumbersome and takes a lot of time and resource and knowledge that, again, you see a number of business owners who are very involved, and that's a lot of time that they take. So we are aware of those concerns, and we really are trying to protect everything that makes Manitou Manitou, and part of that's the people, and a large part of that's the environment. Again, if we want people to come here, we can't trample everything that makes them want to come here, and we're aware of that. We are just trying to better understand our tourism and our local economy and what we can do, and this plan is a step in that direction. It's not going to be perfect, but again, that's why we've given ourselves steps to reevaluate the plan and to change our goals when that might be necessary.
Thank you.
Yeah, hold on one second. I did want the record to reflect that Councilwoman Wilbrook has joined the meeting, and she's been here for about 10 minutes or so. Thank you.
And I have one quick comment since we talked about parking, and then we'll come back to that. First of all, let me say I'm excited to see this plan. It's a big step, I think, in the right direction, and maybe it's not perfect, but who cares? It's never going to be perfect, so but it's great to see it. One thing that I've noticed that I just want to make note of while we're talking about this RPP and parking and come downtown and all of this is that I don't see enough happening on a weekend from your social media to tell people what to do with parking. And I know it's not sexy, parking's never sexy, that's why we don't talk about it, or there's not enough of it, so we don't wanna talk about it, cause there's not enough of it. But we kinda gloss over it, and I mean, I'm old, but I don't go to websites anymore unless, it's like a punishment, I have to go to a website, right? If I can't get it on your Instagram, your Facebook page, or Google Maps, I'm like, okay, I have to go to the website. And I'm just saying that, like, when I drive into town and I'm desperate to be here, and there's no place to park, I feel like, we're not doing enough to say, happy Sunday, remember when you come into town, there's Hiawatha. It just needs to be a scheduled type thing that pops up. I don't think it has to be a lot of extra manual effort. I'm not an expert on how to do that at all. But I went back and looked through weeks and weeks of posts, and I just didn't see anything that told me, visit Manitou Springs, hey, when you get here, it's crowded because everybody loves us. So here's some tips. And I just want to get that out as we're talking about these tickets and all these things that happen before I forget about it. Because I don't know the full answer, but I do know that that's where people are going. And then Jay worked on some things today about Google Maps. It's pretty exciting. It's a tiny thing, but we got a couple of things relabeled in Google Maps. So Hiawatha Gardens is now free parking. When you Google Maps, when you map parking, when you're coming into Manitou and you use Google Maps and you say parking, Hiawatha shows up with the word free. It doesn't even show Hiawatha, which is actually I think a good thing because people can't spell it and they're like, what is it?
Well, they don't know where that
What?
is either.
The good thing is, it's no longer comes up as a restaurant, which it was until
Yeah.
a few days ago.
And Megan did that.
Yeah, and Megan was awesome. She was right on it. Kevin weighed in. It was like this tiny thing that I just wanted to celebrate. So, but I just think that like every weekend we have to be more communicative during the high season and during events. And just have to. I don't know how to do that, but it can't. The website's great, but again, if I'm not going to the website, my daughters are not going to the website because they think that's for people like me.
With events, I will say that you are correct. We don't necessarily push on a weekly basis information about parking, at least not on social media. For an event, especially with Facebook events, anyone who's checked in or with events that are ticketed, Winefest is a great example, we are able to send them information directly about parking information. And I think, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Winefest, again, we have information from visitors about parking, and we give them multiple options of how to get here, including for a larger event, satellite parking, information about the bus system, rideshare services, and where to tell their driver to drop them off. So we do provide a lot of that information for events when we know we're going to be busiest. I would direct you to goal number 5 about gateway signage and Highway 24 signage. That relates to the overall signage plan, which really is about those folks who aren't going to go to the website, who aren't necessarily going to be on social media. And we try and avoid telling people to look on their phones while they're driving, but that while they're watching the road, they'll see the signage that will direct them where to park and will give them valuable information. So those are projects that we're working on. Social media is very fickle, and we did provide to all of the businesses in town messaging about parking. Mainly free after 6 p.m., free parking in Hiawatha Gardens, and then also incline language, park shuttle. So we have given that to all of the businesses, mainly downtown, but we've tried to focus on all of Manitou Springs, giving them that shared language so that not just our social media, if you go to any, your favorite restaurant, if you go to a shop that you're trying to visit inside, all of that language will be understandable, consistent, simple, and hopefully facilitate the action that we want from visitors.
And I appreciate your response to that. This isn't really a criticism, it's just I can tell we need to do something. So I'm not really trying to be critical, I'm just saying that we need to do it. Keep in mind that parking is in its infancy. We're 6 years into paid parking, so we're all learning how managed parking works, what doesn't work. And we've been pretty good at changing things, which is bad on one side because we're always changing things, but on the other hand, as a community, it's good because we're trying to be responsive. So I really appreciate your response. And again, I'm not trying to be critical, I'm just saying that I think we have to work harder. I live downtown, so I talk to tons of people all summer long. So thank you.
And I do appreciate that feedback, and I think any feedback that you continue to get from constituents yourself, I mean, we understand that it's a work in progress, and it'll take some teamwork.
Yes.
Yeah, I also am very appreciative of this plan. I think it's quite good. I didn't realize it was 3 years, somehow I missed that, but that's probably good because it is ambitious. I love Becky's idea of looking at local home-based businesses and so on. I think that's great. I also love the events that are being included, and I see many of them are absolutely tailored for residents as well as outsiders. I think a great example is the 4th of July.
It's all about the residents.
It's really a resident, tons of residents go and have a wonderful time. The silent disco, there's a lot of things now that will, so anyway, I'm thrilled with the events as they're occurring. I also think maybe education because I think most people don't, it's not immediately apparent to people that this has historically been a tourist town, health and tourism, and that is our tax base. And if we don't have the tourism, we have to develop something else or raise property taxes. So I think that maybe that educational component might be important, to manage those expectations on people. And then lastly, I think objectively assessing the economic impact of the incline is something that you might wanna take a look at. I think we as a city owe that to the city, and I think you guys could really help us with that too. We've had lots of anecdotal, lots of emotional, responses, and some hard data, but I think a true hard objective assessment of the economic impact of the incline would go a long way for us in the city. So thank you.
I'd go one step further, and that is that I think there are some simple steps we can do to capture incliners. The sign up at the thing never got done, looks horrible. The sign in the display up by the incline, about downtown got taken down and never replaced. I assume that was the Friends of the Incline that did that. You know, but to me, I think most towns would spend a lot of money and would kill for 350,000 visitors. We've got them, we just don't capture them well. Other than, I will say, Saturday and Sunday, the incliners are in restaurants or having coffee or breakfast and so forth. But maybe there's some way to really find out how to capture them. I did have a conversation with a guy that has the app for the Manitou Incline and asked him if he would be willing to or wanting to expand it. There are any number of things that can be done when someone pulls up their Manitou app and they drive to Manitou. An ad could come up, oh, by the way, you hungry, you thirsty, you need to recover, or whatever, you need a new t-shirt, and it comes up on that app and you might be encouraged to stop. So, you know, there's a lot of things we could do with that incline, and as I say, most communities would be thrilled if they had 350,000 people coming. We don't seem to embrace it quite the same way. And so the question is, how do we do that, and how do we take advantage of that? So, I appreciate the comment.
I just wanted to make a comment in, you know, this is going into my 8th budget cycle, and for 7 of those years, we've been on the chamber pretty hard. We would come back and say, what are you gonna do with economic development? This isn't what, you know, we want. Come back with a plan. So they've come back with a plan, which I think is great. It's something we can build upon. Nancy stole my glory about the tourism thing, because I was saying, if we don't have the tourists, those of us who live here won't be able to live here because we won't be able to afford it if we didn't have the tourists. And I know that's, you know, a thorn in your side, but it's true. So I think this is a great document, and I think we ought to just move forward with it. And, you know, we all have to realize that. And I don't know anybody that's moved to Manitou and doesn't realize it's in the tourist town. I really would find that hard to believe, that they don't know this is what the basic economy is tourism. So I gotta applaud you guys for getting this forward. I would like to have seen it sooner, but this is a great document.
And I think to Becky's point, I think a lot of people are familiar with that this is a tourist town, and that tourism is very important, but also balancing those needs. And I think that is something that we're trying to focus on, and much like parking, it's going to be a work in progress. But with your help, I mean, I think we can make some real progress.
I think what really stretches people out is that it's already been a tourist town, but in the wintertime, we got our town back. In the wintertime, we see each other, and we don't get that anymore, and you guys are trying to, like, 12 months out of the year, this, you know, who wouldn't want 350,000 visitors? I think you could find people in town who might not want 350,000 visitors. Maybe I'm a minority. I'm just saying what I hear and what I feel about living here. I've lived here more than half my life. And it did not used to be like this. It used to be peaceful. We used to honor our environment. We used to have peace. It used to be a peaceful little artistic community. Everybody was an artist. Everybody. I mean, I used to do stained glass windows. I mean, everybody did art. So I don't know if art's tourism, but you know, the increase in the cost of living has come in lockstep with the increase
numbers of people. People come here, oh, I wanna live here. You know, when I moved here, you could get a place for under $100 a month, you can't do that anymore. Same size places are almost, $1,700 now in my neighborhood. So,
But that's
Are they
across the
connected?
board, that just doesn't happen in Manatee, that happens
True.
everywhere in Colorado.
true, which
So-
means we really need to protect ourselves from allowing it to get worse or just going full speed forward without really talking to everybody and really getting people feel like they're losing their home. That they've lived here and raised their kids. People that John Graham would know. Alan, people that, raise their kids here and I need to go downtown. So that's a problem to me.
We're not gonna solve that.
No.
It's a good conversation, and I think that Nancy's point about educating people, because as we hear the demand, more and more of a demand for services, paved roads, I don't want any potholes, I want this, I want that, I want the other, from community, it comes along with a cost. And so we just have to have a conversation about how do we pay for that cost, or how do we cut back our demands on our government and our community? And so that's a good conversation. We're probably not gonna solve that tonight, but it's a good conversation to have at some point. Other comments specifically about the plan itself?
Two more comments, if you don't mind. A long time ago, the mayor and I talked about maybe an incentive program for merchants, rather than, you've done some great programs for, I think, locals with some prizes that were gone before I even knew about, like, the opportunity. But I know that you talked about, like, you push this information out to them all the time, but they don't push it out. And I know that's just the way it is. But I would love to see some type of incentive program for them, so that they get points for posting on social media about parking or things like that. And those points translate into something, whether it's Manatee money, you can figure all that out. But we talked about that a long time ago, and I think that now that you've done some of these programs for visitors and residents, that would be great. I also love the idea that somebody pitched me, because I never get to see you guys and I'm so busy, is the coffee cup that you get refilled at Manitou coffee shops, and it comes out once a year, and when they're gone, and it's a collectible item, and people would love that. And some other programs like that, which, I could sit and bore you all day long with this, so if you ever wanna do that, let me know, but something like that would be great for locals, but visitors would be like, oh, I'm gonna get that, it's a local artist, and I can go get my coffee refilled the week I'm here with a 10% discount. It's just, but incentivizing business owners are not gonna do it. I've been here for 17 years, I had a store from 2003 to 2011, I know, they're too busy, there's nothing in it for them. They go, well, they think that, but once they realize they can get that coffee cup, they'll be like, parking, here's where you park. Well, look, the wine festival's happening, you watch. What do? We go to Safeway, what do? We put our credit card in. All of us do it. Those rewards are meaningful, and I think we need to realize, especially the younger generation, the Zs or the millennials, they're reward driven. Very reward driven. Thank you.
Other comments? I had a couple. First of all, thank you for putting this together. Great job putting it together. I wanted to know, I saw the Understanding Retail Mix, which was the event today, I think, with the Downtown Colorado Week, but I don't see anything else on here. You spent quite a bit of time, I think, doing some work on our retail mix. I don't see anything on here. What happened to that, and will that be captured in here in some way, shape, or form? And how do we get to the point where we are more, more intentional about the businesses that we want, and we go after them based upon data, we go after them based upon whatever, demographics, et cetera, as opposed to just letting the market, whatever it is, which is fine, but it may not end up with the kind of business mix that we want. So how do we incorporate that, or is it incorporated in any way in this plan?
We do have an evaluation of our retail mix, based on just what's currently existing, and granted, with turnover, it doesn't stay current for very long. This meeting today with Downtown Colorado Inc., part of it was relationship building with other communities across Colorado and see what their experience is, getting together and understanding what tools they've used and what the impact has been. And I think it was learning from other communities and putting heads together to create new ideas and see what works.
Well, I got that. Where is that continued on in one of your 10 goals? how is that work going to be continued on in this plan, if at all?
I think there may have been, I was not at the meeting today.
No, I'm talking about from the chamber's perspective, because it looks like the creative district did that and it's done. I'm looking at the 10 goals of the chamber and wondering, where are you incorporating any aspect of retail mix into your future planning?
You have to have vacancies first.
Maybe yes, maybe no. You have to know what you want first, and then when the vacancy comes, you go grab what you want. Unless you know what you want, it's a little hard. But we do have vacancies, they're not very often.
And is that our judgment call to know what the community wants?
Well, if it would be your judgment call to say, we don't need 15 people that sell t-shirts or 15 people that sell candles or whatever it is, you need to understand what the mix is currently, and then go to the community and say, wait a minute, this mix isn't sustainable. You're complaining that your business isn't doing as well, and perhaps here's a reason why. And here's some areas that are underserved that might do better, and your retail mix, your merchandise mix might change based upon the demographics that we might let you know. So it's that kind of communication with shop owners and working with them that ultimately over time could improve. Because I think what Becky's saying, we can't stuff more people in town, but we can give them better options to purchase, perhaps other ways to spend more money, so we get a higher sales per square foot, rather than keeping a lower sales per square foot. So I'm just looking for, I'm not trying to solve that, I'm just looking for, are you guys going to continue the efforts that you worked on for a year or so, is really my question. And how is that reflected in this plan?
I would say that there are multiple parts of this plan that do speak to that. I think retail per square foot, while it may be difficult to capture, I think that is a metric of the success of our economic development initiatives. One of those is the regional tourism and sustainability planning. We had a mention of that wellness is a large part of the historical economy of Manitou Springs, and there are wellness, particular wellness opportunities with the merchants in town, better understanding that market. And again, with the regional tourism and sustainability planning, what types of businesses are sustainable? That could, that does fall under that piece. Another topic that you've mentioned is businesses that specifically serve locals. I would point to number 9, allowing people to both live and work in town. They are going to have more experience in town and be spending more time in town, particularly in the downtown district, and that could drive foot traffic that would increase the viability of local serving businesses. I think we agree with the goal that we want to keep this a walkable community that really benefits all, and there are changes that would happen as a result of that. Another is the block captain program, again, getting neighbors on board if there is a vacancy, talking to your landlord. As far as a formalized program to go after certain types of businesses, I think that would come after understanding better trends and where we need to go in the future. Not necessarily where we're at right now, but where we need to be heading.
And is that incorporated into this plan? It's just we're looking at a high level version of it, but it is going to be something that's going to be worked on over the next year or 2 or 3? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think with that note, we can add that as a particular focus, goal number 2.
Well, I think if we don't focus on our retail mix and the retail development, I think we're missing an opportunity. And a couple other points. Question in terms of what's the relationship between the chamber and the creative district and the creative district and the city? What relationship do we have? And Andy, feel free to jump in here. And just so that I understand what is, because in your budget there are creative district line items. There's a $50,000 line item in there. Tell me the relationship between the chamber and the creative district and the creative district and the city.
We've been working together on a lot of the economic development strategies, like the 30 and 3, the 30 restaurants and.
Well, just tell me the relationship. In other words, you are funding the creative
So the
district.
first year, right, the first year, half my salary was paid by the city and the other,
Thank you.
sorry, Natalie Johnson. So the first year, half my salary was paid by the city and half was paid by.
Was that last year?
No, it was 2 years.
2 years ago.
ago.
Okay.
And then we had a great year in Manitou, and the chamber was gonna receive more money, so they took all of me and put me into their budget in terms of my salary. But
Okay,
in terms of who I report to, I sort of report to, I have my creative district board that I report to, but then also I report to the, it's the city and the chamber on a pretty regular basis. But I think that ultimately in this plan, when we talk about the development of a 501c3, right now the creative district is operating under the Arts Council, a branch of the Arts Council, and since the chamber was looking at pursuing a 501c3 so that they could have an opportunity for some grant funding, I stepped up and said the creative district would be interested in taking on that application and developing that 501c3, and then doing that, becoming a direct branch of the chamber.
So right now, the city doesn't have any, other than the city is funding the chamber for the $50,000, and the chamber is turning that money over to the creative district. Is that basically how?
I just pick up the check through them, so I'm actually considered an employee
Yeah.
of
Huh?
the chamber.
It's on our payroll.
Right, but do we contribute that in terms of our
It is part of our
overall-
funding,
Right,
yes.
okay, that was my question.
Yes.
Weekend cleanup and traffic management. The one thing that has bugged me for a long, long time is the fact that, to the best I can see, other than in the mornings when I do see the big guy out there, I think I see him maybe every Saturday and Sunday, I'm not sure about both days. I don't see anybody during the day, I don't know who to call. If we got stuff on the street, I spend most of my time walking through town picking it up. But there needs to be a more sustainable way to do that. And I would say cleanliness of our town is one of the best economic development strategies that we've got. But when people are here, we don't have people doing it. How do we address it?
for that, goal number 5 is really a discussion that we've had, a high level discussion about really increasing our capacity. The business improvement district in Manitou Springs, due to the nature of its assessment, is sort of limited in what it can spend, and its budget is not growing every year with inflation. It's actually a square foot assessment, so it hasn't grown since the bid was enacted. That downtown cleanup is currently funded by the bid, and so we are working on creative ways again with our regional and statewide partners to better utilize the business improvement district as a tool to ensure the cleanliness of downtown.
Okay, but I guess my suggestion to you is you ought to do it starting tomorrow, not 6 months, not a year. How do we get it done quickly? We're on the busy season.
But we have to have the money.
Well, maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe each business, as you say, you've got a block captain thing here. Jay, I got you here. So you have a block captain. So the block captain goes out every 2 or 3 hours and see if there's trash that needs to be picked up. You know, maybe there are different ways to look at it, but if we just wait for money to come in to clean up our town, I think we're missing the boat. I think we have to figure out other ways to do it, or get the money immediately or allocate it, because a dirty town is, it's just not the good message. And as I say, it's a continual problem, and we just don't have it. The other is traffic direction. We are really busy on, Saturdays and Sundays. Who's out there directing traffic when it backs up? And that's a combination city chamber issue that we need to resolve. On the times when we have most people here, we have the least staff. It should be the other way around. And I'd love to have some conversation about how to make that happen. Money is certainly an issue.
But I'm not sure that we can just hire traffic people. I mean,
No, I think
that,
it's a
you know.
city, city chamber discussion. Who's gonna take the lead on it? And somebody needs to take the lead to say, who's gonna do it? Police, SP Plus, somebody needs to do it. Or we ignore it, and then I get emails on Monday morning saying your town sucks because it took me 25 minutes to find a parking, I couldn't get around, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, we get all those too.
Right, let's fix it.
So,
I would think that incorporating some of those goals would be helpful too, to provide for a better experience. So really, we're talking about visitor experience, visitor management. When I was in Abu Dhabi, there were people wearing t-shirts. Visitor management, that's what they did.
Actually, I had a conversation with a gentleman who's gonna put together a proposal about having incline ambassadors also.
Okay, another good one. Anyway, thank you. I just have a couple other things here. Music scene. I think the chamber, and particularly Jenna, has done a great, I think it's Jenna, who's taken the lead on it, who's done a great job of establishing a music scene here. I promote it. I don't mean promote it, literally promote it. I put it in your goals. Make Manitou Springs the #1 destination for local music, something. I would encourage that, because it's been really great. I think it benefits locals, it benefits visitors. Highlight it in your goals. Say, that's what we're gonna go after. It's a really robust music scene. That's all I have. Jay?
If you think it's dirty and you need to pay for it, Public Services is our entity to do such a thing. And we just need to staff it in such a way that it becomes a priority for town. If it's a priority for town, we put money toward it. They already pick up trash, that's who picks up our trash on the weekends, and there's no reason why we couldn't pay more money and have them do more stuff. So,
Well, I thought, just off of that, I thought last year we gave that direction because we didn't know how to do it, and they were gonna schedule just people to make them, but we had people here 7 days a week.
Yeah, and
And so-
it's not just picking up the cans, it's walking up and down the street, picking up trash, cleaning up dog poop, et cetera, whatever it
it
is.
just takes,
Yeah,
Exactly, that's what
budget.
I thought we already were doing.
I don't think we're doing that. I don't think
It
we're
was just
doing
making
that.
sure the trash cans were emptied on
That I
a
think we're
regular
doing.
basis because they were constantly overflowing.
We're at about 7:46.
Just wanna finish up with that, with the public services review happening, this is critical. This was, this is critical, that's all I'm gonna say to Denise about this. We need to figure out how to do this, and I think one of my goals before I leave council is to make city staff aware of the importance of our businesses, because that's where so much of our budget comes from. And to not feel like it's a thorn in their side, but to take great pride in having a really clean downtown would be something that I'd really like to work on, because it makes up 55% or more of our revenue. So when we do this assessment, I really wanna see a big emphasis on that. And there's so many things, Public Works is endless, but we don't have that now, we don't. I'll be honest with you, last July, we stopped doing maintenance downtown. So by the time Jay and I met with the interim city manager and the Public Works director in January, imagine how much dog food was in every flower bed. It was horrible. I live here and I couldn't stand to walk to the post office and back, I'd get so angry. So we have to work on this with the public services assessment, and there has to be some buy-in for city staff to understand the value of businesses in town. And what it means for them is, it means a paycheck, amongst other things. We gotta get to the point where there's this collaborative effort and a real appreciation for the businesses.
And I'd add SP Plus as part of that, because they're here all weekend. We don't have very many public services here. When we do have them on the weekends, they're for emergency. But I'd add SP Plus to the conversation. What can we incorporate? Because we have people here to make that possible. Anything else? Thank you guys for taking the time. We didn't get around to budget issues.
Or the MOU.
Or the MOU. So we will pursue that, presumably as part of our budget discussions coming up. I thought we could be able to wrap it all up into one session. But I think that's a whole nother half hour, 45-minute conversation, I think. Maybe not that much.
That was my,
Budget.
that was my question on budget. I was kinda confused. I thought we were just each person was getting their administrator, and then the budget would be presented to us. I didn't know we were gonna go out individually.
Well, we incorporated because they were making this presentation. I said, would you like to talk about the budget at the same time? And that's how it came up, because we wanted the economic development presentation. But we don't need anything else if in fact it's gonna go through Denise, which it is, and that may be sufficient. And if she says, we are having other groups come in, during the budget process. And so if Denise feels that that's appropriate, I guess we'll coordinate that.
So we're gonna go back to that.
I don't know about going back.
That's going back.
Okay. Did we decide not to go back to that?
We were basically, and my understanding was we were gonna have, everybody would have a budget time with the administrator, whoever that would be, and then we would have our retreat, which we didn't do last year. And during that whole point in time, we would have, if we had questions, we could ask them at that time. We kinda got away from each individual coming in, and because it kinda became I'm gonna compete against you, you versus me, and that's kind of, we got away from that, so if we're gonna go back to that, fine.
I
But we're
didn't
gonna spend a
recall
lot
that
more
we had
time.
made a specific direction to change that, but we can talk about that. Let's have another conversation about that, about how we would like that presented.
We need to have it fairly quickly instead of moving on the budget.
Bring it up under your, city administrator report that we're gonna add to the agenda in a few minutes here.
Okay.
So we will figure out what, if anything, is needed. Obviously, I think you've given your budget information to Denise. And so the only question is whether Denise has anything further in how we're gonna proceed. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, next item is number 2, match funds distribution discussion. We have also about 45 minutes for this topic. And I'm not envisioning that we might get it fully completed, maybe we will, but we'll see where we get to about 45 minutes. So, well, we have up I'm gonna make some introductions.
Natalie Johnson?
Matt Kavanaugh, 17 Washington Avenue.
Charlie McDonough, 16 Columbia Road.
You can slide that, and you can have your share. Is that on? You need to turn around and see if the button is.
It appears to press.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so, we have in our packet a very complete.
We also have a hard cap, I don't know if you need a hard copy to write on, or you guys, yeah.
So we have a packet, thank you. I think there was a lot of work and a lot of joint effort that went into putting this together, appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor, are there other packets available?
Apparently there are.
Just a few.
It's also on our website, under tonight's agenda, if anybody wants to pull that up. Anybody else need something, everybody else okay?
Actually, I have other copies too, just know what things I have.
I can go make copies of them.
So, there are a couple things we can do. Obviously, we can go through this, in some detail, which would be great. One of the questions that I had before we do that for council, is whether we would like to, indicate, and maybe if it's in here, I didn't see it, but maybe we could start with that, whether there are, any subjective or objective criteria for how the distribution is gonna be made. I see the suggested, proposal, and maybe I missed it, but was there a discussion about, okay, what is the criteria for how this is gonna be done? What are the priorities for how this is gonna be done? And maybe you can start with that and just fill us in about that.
So I would say initially when we got together and decided to sort of move forward with this ballot measure idea, was that we wanted to figure out a way to support our existing infrastructure before we added on and started doing new things. So we were looking at sort of all the organizations that needed a hand now, with the understanding that we didn't wanna lose them while we were moving forward with new things. So that was sort of the gist of it. So we were looking at our brick and mortar nonprofits and saying, all right, how do we make sure they're here for the next 100 years?
Well, no, I'm assuming that the
That
5
was
projects around here fit
Right,
that
so that was,
criteria.
that was the initial criteria, was
Okay.
you had to have a brick and mortar, building in the community, and it had to have existed for an extended period of time.
Okay.
So it was not a new project.
Legacy capital expenses.
And so, right, and so the same thing felt true for the library, that we were like, no one's tracking this, we're gonna lose it if we don't do something. So these were all the kind of things people weren't, I think, tracking, that we thought we could lose.
Okay, so then you came up with the 5, you came up with 4, we added 1. And so then to bring it down to, okay, the library gets this amount, the other groups get that amount, and so forth. What kind of criteria, what was the process? Maybe you could just talk a little
Sure,
bit
do you
about
wanna talk
that.
about the library piece, or? I mean, how
Yeah.
we came up with that amount for the library?
Yeah, I mean, it was based on, what we thought it would take bond-wise to repair the library based on the, approved architectural renderings from 2017. And then beyond that, it's clearly the building that's in the greatest need. The water damage, I'm sure you're aware of right now, is literally rotting the building out from underneath itself. You know, so we felt very much that this was the legacy capital expense that was in the most dire, exigent circumstances. And then beyond that, knowing the ongoing expenses that it takes with maintaining some of this infrastructure that supports Manitou Springs, the MAC, the Heritage Center in Miramont, that drove the annual target level that we were seeking to achieve for the other three organizations.
So would I be correct in assuming that from your perspective, the number one priority of all of the things on here is the library? Or is that not, maybe that's overstating it a bit? And the reason I say that is because as I noticed in here, you're allocating $100,000 for the library, but yet at the same time, you're indicating that, and I know these are just guesses, that the annual payments to support a bond would be well over $100,000.
Correct.
140, 160.
Probably about 120.
To re-characterize your statement, I think that we would suggest that they're all equal. We've indicated them as tier one because they're all equal priorities, but they have different needs, and therefore, which drives different amounts of money to meet those.
Well, one is a
needs.
construction project,
Yeah.
and the
Well, I
other is
mean,
maintenance, which
yeah.
Well, let me, I guess what I'm asking is, are you going to suggest that we fund that fully at 100% to get that job done? And then look at the other three organizations?
No.
You're not.
No.
So you're suggesting we fund it partially?
we're the 125, so we believe we can come up with $125,000 a year to make that bond.
You believe you can come up with 125, but this proposal?
The extra 25
Yeah.
or 58 or whatever it was, take comes
So
from.
this is why, when we met with them, I'm like, these dollar figures aren't real, because nor are the percentages real, because we don't know how much
Right.
it's gonna cost. And so, when we met, that's why the conversation really started out this way, because all these numbers and percentages are unknowns, really. And so we're like, if the Carnegie Library is the most important thing, then it really comes down to percentages are from what's left. Is how, then is some of this got not quite totally lost, because it says, or 15% of remaining. And that's why it says that now, because it's really about what's left after the library piece is
That was
done.
my question.
It's
So-
the variable. It's the one thing that's
It's-
variable. We
It's the
don't know
variable,
yet.
so the rest of it is unknown, because you don't know the main thing, and that was our premise to start out with, because it just didn't make any sense to do it any other way. And so all these numbers, it's almost forget about it, it's the library's gonna take what the library's gonna take, and then the rest are 15% of remaining.
That was my
That
question.
is-
That was what I was trying to get at with my bad question, but that's exactly.
Which is why there really weren't a whole lot of things to discuss at that meeting, because when you boil it all down, the unknown really drove the rest of it. And that's how we came up with it.
Which is why I don't phrase it as that's the first priority, more that it's the variable on which the other amounts are contingent.
Exactly.
So,
Well, first priority in the sense, I think what you're saying here is.
first dollars.
Yeah,
That
we're
would
gonna
be-
prioritize the first dollars to get that project done.
Yes, driven by the fact that it naturally takes time
Got it.
to make that happen.
So as what Jay is saying, you really can't set the dollar numbers on these others until you know more information about the library.
Correct.
If there's $25,000 a year coming in from someplace else, great. I haven't seen where that's coming from, but right now, presumably this money, meaning the match money, is gonna pay for the library, whatever that might look like.
That'll come off the top.
If that's a
And then the
waterfall,
percentages
the
from the-
library would drink first.
Okay,
And then the other, that would.
great clarification,
Yeah.
okay.
Because I missed that as well, so that is very helpful clarification.
Well, I think that, like you said, it is that weird conversation, like, people wanna see a number, you know, to just say 15% is sort of a, it's very ambiguous.
So I see what you're saying here. I didn't pick up on the or more part. So $100,000, 50% or more could be more. And likely, based upon the very rough numbers you got, will be more.
Yeah, to be honest, we're
Must be building
amateurs in
recession.
the classic sense. We don't understand how, municipal level bonding works. So I don't know what rates you access as a municipal entity. We based it off of what we best could understand from the commercial market. And we came up with somewhere in the neighborhood of $115,000 to $125,000 a year, based over 25 years.
It's more like the top.
Yeah, it was 158,000 was your top number?
I mean, different estimates came to different.
Well, what we have in front of us.
Again, but this is,
It's just an estimate.
it's an estimate based on the most amateur of amateurs.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way.
I totally understand. Okay. So with that in mind, presumably, obviously, we can't finalize this in terms of numbers, dollars and cents. What's the next step? And I see Mr. Spears here, he and I had a conversation this weekend. What's the next step with the library to get the information we need in order to move forward? It could be waiting until after the ballot issue, or it could be, well, we need to do something anyway, regardless of what happens with the ballot issue. So how do we take those next steps?
I think we were talking about waiting until next year and using the Jane bequest to put together the construction documents and get the final estimates next year, and then work on measure language for November of 2020.
Okay, so just put that on hold until next year and figure out what happens in November.
I mean, the funding for, this ballot measure wouldn't be distributed until April of 2021, and so we do have time.
Sure.
That's the question I had, is that if it passes, collect all the taxes in 2020 for distribution in 2021. And then it says based on the previous year. So is there an expectation that amongst everybody that council will still take funding out of the general fund for all that over the past couple of years we've funded
You mean for next year?
in 2020?
I think that's up to each organization, but it is correct that they're not going to get any funding through this next year.
Okay.
So if there are people that
But that's
rely
what
on that.
policy says right now, is that they won't get
Well,
it,
basically,
because the structure
working
won't
with
be in
that,
place yet.
Well, it's not this, it's
And
the
the taxes
idea
won't
is,
be collected.
right, we don't know what 50% of 50% of what, right? 15% of what? So it's kind of similar to the chamber. The chamber gets paid based on the year prior, so they collect that first year and then they're funding.
There's likely a good, flash to bang here in the sense that this gives a year to plan for those adjustments to the way that you do your budget process. And the way that some of these organizations were approaching the city for funding, you can take a year to migrate that funding stream to the match. I mean, we would of course prefer the money to flow in tomorrow, but a year is a good amount of time to prepare for the impact.
No, and I liked your budget for the library. I mean, I thought that was foresight, figuring that out. What about evaluation of this whole program? I would see constant evaluation and feedback into evolving the policy. Have you guys talked about evaluation? And that also drives what criteria would be used to, award grants, I would think, whatever that grant program you call it. Have you guys come up with, overall, how you're gonna look to evaluate things?
A lot of it is gonna be, for the grants in particular, I mean, it's gonna be based on the completion and evaluation of their project. So we don't have like a numerical sort of system, but the committee that's gonna be evaluating each year, that's gonna be assigned by council.
So
And
you would
then-
see them as coming up with the criteria. Obviously, the evaluation should be put in place before you start a program. So I just didn't see anything on
Yeah,
it.
we
So
didn't.
I would expressly put that in there under that committee, that they are responsible for setting up the evaluation program.
And I think the other piece is having that person that's helping to manage that project is able to keep detailed notes from year to year so that you can look back on past years to see how.
Right, exactly. And then a very depressing question, if one of these, of the 5 buildings that are in here were to, go belly up, so to speak. I mean, first of all, the city has some responsibility some fiduciary responsibility if things are getting into trouble. What we might do, and I didn't see any, expectation or preparation if something, God forbid, like that should happen. And if they should go belly up, then would, they have to, whatever you call it, clear your assets. Would then some of that funding go back into this coffer?
So, I mean, obviously that organization would be eliminated from this structure, but in terms of, when a 501c3 disbands, there's very specific things that they have to do with that money, and I do not believe they can give it back to the city. I think it has to go to another nonprofit, or there has to be distribution.
Okay, it'd be just good to have some, assessment in here, or some
get those guidelines,
description,
but they're
some
very
guidelines.
specific,
Right,
yeah, it's not
exactly.
anything, we would create something like this,
Okay.
that's national, a 501c3 has to
But
follow.
it's more than that.
Right.
It's saying that the MAC went belly up in year 5. In year 6, who gets the 30 grand distributed? How does that forward money get dealt with, not just what's already been given and the assets of that? I mean, that's almost a non-issue to the city. It's really what happens going forward. But this ballot language says 30 grand or 15% goes to this entity which no longer exists. What happens?
Well, hold on a second, the ballot language wouldn't say that.
No, it's this, it's
MOU.
MOU.
This plan,
Correct. Plan.
which can be changed.
Correct.
What can't be changed is the ballot language.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I mean, in effect, that organization or entity would be zeroed out, and then, and we would be
I'll just
prepared.
say that, but I was just looking at the assets and what the city's invested
Absolutely,
into it.
and over
into that.
25 years,
Right.
I mean, you describe it as sort of, God forbid, but, I mean, 25 years is a long time, so.
Yeah, well,
I'm envisioning one or more of these will go out of business, not just because things change.
Absolutely,
So-
yeah, we need to be prepared.
Hopefully not. And a slightly broader question, what criteria did you use in deciding the 33, 33, 33? I'm looking at page 50. And I wonder if any of
this is
this.
the original.
Oh, the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3?
Right, well, that's fine, it's still pretty similar, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. But my question is, in general, what criteria did you consider when deciding how much each of those 3 organizations would get?
So we discussed, we met with each organization, and we said what amount of money would be impactful for your organization? Because there's a point at which, if it's the same amount we get from all our other grants, $2,500 here, $5,000 here, it's hard for that to actually result in like real change or real strategic planning. And so we really met with them and said, like, what is the, because there's not an unlimited amount of money here. What is the least amount of money that you could agree to that would be worth fighting for on a ballot measure, would be worth knocking on your neighbor's door, would be worth spending hundreds of hours on to sort of transform your organization? And we came up with that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So every group, was said around $25,000 is a game changer. Less than that, it's really difficult to see that actually having a long-term impact on the organization.
And I didn't pick up on this, are these funds, I think you mentioned in that they were capital legacy, are these funds gonna be restricted to capital?
We have not had that requirement,
No.
because a lot of them, their needs, again, some of them are archival, right? That a lot of them need, a lot of time and energy around archiving some of this stuff, and they're not able to do it.
So it's operations and capital.
It would, and also it recognizes the fact that needs change greatly over 25 years, and hamstringing someone, by narrowing what those funds are able to do didn't seem prudent.
Well, and what happens is that then you just say, okay, it's only for capital, right? So then we take money out of our general fund,
It becomes
put it
a-
into capital, and then put this into staffing and other things. Like, at the end of the day, it's all going in the pot. I mean, you can limit how it's spent on paper, but how it's spent in the organization.
I would say that
you know
that's
what
just
I
an
mean?
inconsistency in the message,
Right.
because there's one place in here it talks about capital, I know that it's my understanding that can go program. So I would just say that there's a couple places within this document, as you continue to clean it up and to expand it, that eliminate those sorts of inconsistencies.
In the exploratory learning that it has taken place in my education and learning what these nonprofits need, their greatest need is capital because it's the least sexy. It's fixing toilets. It's the water leak in the library building right now. You described the same problem on city council as getting citizens interested in investing in sewers and roads. It's the same problem with these nonprofits, it's just, on a different scale, a different expense line.
So concern I have about that is one, accountability.
Sure.
How are we going to maintain accountability for public funds when they're just given for whatever? What is the accountability? How
So
will we know? If
obviously
you
it's
say,
like-
we did this capital project, accountability, you either got it done or you didn't. Well, we're gonna archive stuff. What do you mean? How much stuff are you archiving? It's a lot harder to have that accountability.
So I do think so I think you're right, so again, it's sort of those annual reports, those annual check-ins, those annual conversations, we need to continue, we need the residents to continue to buy into this after this passes, cause we're gonna be looking at renewing it. You know, that we can't activate 1 year before you're 25 and expect our residents to suddenly jump on board, like, this is gonna be huge. But the other part is, right, we will jump over any hurdle you give us, like, let us know, we will provide all information.
Accountability is one.
Yeah, and whatever that is, we will give it to you. We
And
are not afraid of that.
I would just ask, I don't look at these as hurdles,
Mhm.
just ways to enhance the possibility and probability of success, that's all.
Yeah, no, but I mean, we do this for everything we do,
Right, exactly.
right? So it's not new, it's not an unusual request, we just need to know exactly what it is and what we do.
That's why I asked for page 10 to be added. It's about the tier 1 organizations and posted in 990s on the city website, not just a link. So you don't have to go anywhere else. You have a one-stop shop. The meeting dates, times, agendas, and all this stuff, so that people can look at it and have an understanding of what, not specifically where $10 went, but that this is a real organization. It's been around. It's helping the community. And this is what's happening with it. And if they want to get involved, how they can get involved in it is also going to be posted.
I thought those were great summaries, by the way.
Do you envision the cities gonna be doing that? If so, we've gotta budget that in, cause we've
It's
now
gonna be,
added.
it's gonna be on the city website, so there'll be some things that some city staff will have to do, like put 990 on there, and the minutes and all that. Yes, there'll be some level of effort at the city, but it's kind of what the city does, it's their responsibility to effect this piece of the requirement, just as it is to collect the money and distribute the money, and it's all staff time too, so it's a minimal amount, but it's probably the best way to ensure transparency.
To some degree, you could probably integrate it into normal operations as well, so that you could envision the Historic Preservation Commission just subsuming that relationship with the Heritage Center. I mean,
Yeah, but the HBC doesn't
you
have the
could-
staff per se, we just have to budget. This is a fair amount of work, cause we don't have anybody right now.
but I mean, in terms of
No,
posting
This is
agendas
just
and reporting to the
posting.
public.
I understand.
It's not recording the minutes,
I get
it's
that.
not participating in meetings, it's, these were my minutes, can you get them on this website? So yeah, there is a level of effort, but
Yeah.
very,
But could be
It's best
integrated into normal operations without much.
it's probably the best way. The only way I can certainly think of, because it puts it all in one spot. You don't want it on each of their websites. You want somebody to be able to check, did I get this September 1st from this organization because I was supposed to?
It's similar to what Colorado Gives campaign does, because everything's on there, you can easily go and click on it,
Yeah.
and see what's there.
And we already have the structure to do this for all of our boards and commissions that take meeting minutes. So it will just become, as Matt said, it'll kind of become integrated into the operations of the city. There won't be that limits, but there'll be some time.
How do we address, so you look at the capital needs and just take the MAC, which is the one I have open here, 3 out of the 5 are well above $30,000. There's a couple projects you can do for under $30,000, but not very many. How does this help you get the capital projects done? That's just one example. It's not, you have to save up $30,000 for
We'd probably
multiple
looking at a
years.
loan, and then we'd use this funding to pay off the loan.
And to get the city support on something is huge, huge when you're writing grants. I mean, that's gonna go a long way.
But the big thing, I think that for us, we would be looking at taking a loan. And then we would know we could make this payment and we would use this payment as part of that.
So you're looking for the city council to put, first of all, we can't do it yet, but let's assume we can get the library numbers worked out. And then we figure out what's remaining. Are you looking for the city council to decide in advance, whenever that is, that a certain amount is going to these organizations for the next 25 years?
Well, at least, well, I wouldn't say 25 years, I would say that, because remember that, I mean, this is sales tax, so it's gonna be variable on an annual basis. So one ingredient will certainly be the bond. Once the bond, you figure out what that amount is gonna be, but on an annual basis, it is gonna fluctuate. And I would say it's less about the specific amount, but the expectation that a sustained amount will be there over a significant period of time.
I mean, the 0.3% that sunset was a sales tax that was used to pay off a loan.
Right, there weren't organizations fighting over it, and there wasn't a division of it.
There isn't any fighting here.
Well, I don't mean that's the wrong word. There wasn't organizations dividing it. It was just the city and that was it.
No, we understand that this is a little different, but this is similar obviously to what they do in Denver and other places, that this is an unusual thing.
So for 25 years, you're expecting the city to make a designation, probably not a dollar designation, but a percentage designation, or you used the word, what did you use, significant?
Sustained significant contribution. And, but you asked earlier about how we arrived at the percentages for
Yes.
each organization. To some degree, it was to mitigate this problem that you're describing.
Just
You're
across the
envisioning-
board.
Well, to some extent, you don't want infighting amongst the nonprofit community. This is meant to be a consolidated effort by the nonprofit community in order to stave off those kinds of rice bowl fights. This is about as reasonable a distribution, I think, as we could have achieved. So
Here's my concern about that. Marymount Castle has 14,000 square feet, 16 staff. We're open 7 days a week, 56 hours a week. And you compare that to the Heritage Center, and I'm not taking sides here by any means. I'm just trying to figure out criteria and some rationale.
Yeah.
And the Heritage Center has 2,000 square feet that they rent, and they have 0 staff. So the needs of the castle, at least using that data, would seem to be much greater than the needs of the Heritage.
sometimes
But
it's
again,
better
you
that
throw
every.
in, and then you throw in Hiawatha Gardens, right? It doesn't have a function at all. So how does then Hiawatha go in there? I mean, you're looking at all of these equally, right? And so I don't think that's a crazy thing, that it's okay that Hiawatha Gardens doesn't have a function yet, but it can still get funding annually. I think that's okay.
But I guess I'm questioning if there's any criteria.
So what
Yeah, and I
criteria
think
would you apply to Hiawatha Gardens to get it up to the same level as the Manitowoc Center?
There is no.
Well,
I would say that we have a building that has 5,000 square foot, throw out a.
So it's just based on square footage? it's
That,
not
it can be,
use.
that could be one criteria. It's a building that has 5,000 square feet.
Mhm.
It needs to be secured as a city asset. It's one of the highest needs in terms of securing that building as a city asset if we're gonna maintain it. And so those are the criteria. How important is it to maintain a city asset?
I would suggest the criteria is the sustained partnership of the
Yeah, I think it's
nonprofit
fine. I do
community.
not think we wanna
The
get into
idea
square
that
footage
it's
and-
better that everyone gets a little something
Yeah.
than all get none.
Okay.
You know, because we needed to have all these nonprofits on board, and we needed to find a way to meet their needs in some significant sustained fashion, and to hold on to that coalition over a long period of time.
And I think that's a
Yeah.
legitimate criteria. I hear you expressing that. I understand that. I may or may not agree with it, but now I have a better understanding of the criteria. And that's really what I was looking for, is what's the criteria that went into this thinking you've explained.
It's holding on to the partnership.
I understand that.
One thing that I would find useful when you're marketing this, but certainly from my lack of knowledge, is going back, you've got some of the history about the library and all the community meetings that have been held. You presented some of that in the community group. but I think putting that in writing and incorporating it into this would be helpful as well, cause I know
The
that
timeline, we can talk
the
about
the total timeline, and, you know, I know that a lot of that documentation is out there,
Mhm.
but having it very fact-based and what the community decided at what point and et cetera, et cetera.
Excellent. It is in here somewhere, but I
Yeah.
think you're right, we can handle that.
That is
Yeah,
part of
the timeline is in here,
Okay.
but there's just a lot of documentation and how many people, but yeah,
That's true.
because I found that when you had the meeting here, I found this timeline very helpful. But I think that there's more even to plus it up.
Oh, there certainly is, we
Yeah,
did cut it down
yeah.
almost in half, once again.
I mean,
Yeah.
certainly that's gonna be in there, but it's also gonna be about the storytelling, you know, like to what you're saying.
Precisely,
You know, and that's
precisely.
definitely in the plan, not just for getting it to the vote, but afterwards,
Right.
just to keep on the
Because
story.
every time I ask questions, someone tells me something about
There's
the
some
history. I
insights.
didn't live here back when it was
Right.
being discussed you talked about 20 years ago. I didn't live here then, so it's helpful for those of us who don't know that history.
And even to the point of interviewing people who have lived here multi-generation, collecting those histories.
Other questions from council? Alright, let me raise the issue of Hiawatha. So to me, this proposal of $10,000 or 5%, and I realize those are rough numbers as the other ones are, that doesn't get us anything on Hiawatha. And that tells me that there's no value put on that, and it'll never get done with this. It might get done with something else, but it's never gonna get addressed, period, out of this. So us adding it, this takes away any opportunity to consider Hiawatha, at least from this proposal. Maybe you could comment
I
on
think
that.
actually this is fair.
I asked for it to be added in the first place, and council agreed to add it when we passed what we passed. Even to demo the building's $1 million. We're not $1 million, so that means we just let it rot, but we're not allowed to let it rot, so we're kind of in a pickle in this thing, right? And without any kind of funds to do a matching grant, it's gonna sit there and rot, is essentially what it's gonna do. Or we somehow find an angel partner to rehab it and rent it for an extended period of time. Which is probably a hope and a prayer. I want bet money that we could get that done. So you're correct. $10,000 is a pittance, quite frankly. Or whatever it ends up being, it'll be barely into 5 figures if that. So your question is, what's the point? The point is that we do slowly accumulate a line item in the budget that is just dedicated to that you can leverage at some point to do something bigger with. To say, yeah, we do have some money just for this purpose. It's a great argument to instead go to point 4 instead of point 3 and dedicate that to Hiawatha. If you look at this, as soon as the library is paid off, that project, which could happen sooner or later than later because they might get some grants from some local benefactors, then that money that was dedicated to the library goes to Hiawatha. So eventually there will be money to do something. It's really the kickstart, because without, it's a start. Because right now, 6 years after we bought the thing, there's been no start. There's no anything. We're just barely hanging on to the building. And this will help us get a start. But you're right, it's not gonna be a finish, and it's a pretty turtle of a start. It's very slow.
Right, so to me, that bothers me. It's a city asset, and we have a fiduciary obligation to protect our city assets. Libraries
Like
and
the
other-
library?
Absolutely.
And we've removed that problem.
Truthfully, we don't have that same fiduciary obligation to the nonprofits. They're important. Everything you say in here is absolutely right. But city funds typically are used on city projects and city assets and preserving your community assets. And so I'm struggling a little bit. If we prioritize, if we say that's an important city asset, then we have to put some money to it.
But these aren't city funds per se.
sales tax or city funds, there's nothing
Yeah,
more than
except
city funds.
the community said, I want these city funds for this purpose. So you can make the argument that they're city funds and we have this building, but the community said, yeah, these city funds are for X.
Well, but that's-
It's worth expanding on that. So when we went out and talked to folks and gathered signatures, and I know that they were inappropriate and we wish that we had stapled them differently, but 424 folks signed a document that did not include Hiawatha Gardens, 360 of which were registered electors that would have counted should we have stapled those documents differently. So I would say that the community has expressed a desire to privilege these organizations, and Hiawatha Gardens was not part of what we presented to the community. So if you're looking at racking and stacking these organizations, the community gave us this, to some degree, gave us this priority list.
I disagree with your assessment there.
How
The
so?
community wasn't asked, which would you prefer us using city money on? Preserving city assets or supporting nonprofits? Did you ask that question?
No, but equally, citizens could have initiated signature campaigns for Hiawatha Gardens.
They
and it
could
didn't
have,
happen.
Matt, but I don't draw the same conclusion, we just have to agree to disagree.
Well, we have to
The fact
agree
that
to the
it wasn't
facts.
on your
That's
petition
correct, but we do have to go with
doesn't
what we
look-
have, not
doesn't
with
give
what
us any
we
information.
might have asked.
Should I just say that according to everything I understand, the Carnegie Building has been a 20-year vision to do something about. We've had it for way longer than that. So we've spent 20 years trying to come up with what the community wants to do with the library. We've had Hiawatha Garden for 6 years, that's it. So I personally don't have a problem with that we've had it for 6 years. I don't have a problem with putting $10,000 per year out of this, and this will not be popular, but policies can change over time. I don't want to do that because I also have no problem with looking for other sources of funding, just like these are looking for other sources of funding. And one of those other sources of funding might be the general fund. Whether there's money in there or not, I it's time to be told, but I would like to continue to work on Hiawatha Gardens because we are in the infant stages of it. So again, I am trying to take a very long view on this, and not discount the work that has been done over many, many years. Because I have been part of some, not the library, but other projects that have been 20-year projects, and that I consider very important to the city. So, and if someone comes along and says, oh, we shouldn't do that after 20 years of working on it, is very, I would be very upset. So that's just one person's perspective.
I'm just gonna say, as as a councilor, when we 6 years ago voted to, accept the money and ask the community to see if we were going to go with that, it was all established under, this was going to be a parking lot. After we acquired the building, is when everybody came in and said, oh, we can't do anything with the building, we gotta stop. So, in that aspect, I had a real difficult time saying, why are we saving this building? Because that's not what we presented as a city council to the community. We never presented that to the community as we were gonna save the building. That was an after fact when we got historic preservation and everybody else started coming in and saying, hey, we need to save the building. So, end of the day, we've got you disagree, we can disagree, whatever, but it's still the same thing that that wasn't supposed to be until building as a city asset.
Well,
When
it
we
is.
originally did it, it is now because we listened to different organizations that said, okay, we'll keep it as this, but now we don't know what we're gonna do with it, we don't have the funding, we don't do this, but as far as presenting to the public, when we bought that was never intended.
I
So.
might add to that, the Heritage Center had a huge program that they presented about Hiawatha Gardens, and I wish Deborah was here, Deborah Harrison,
That was
to
after the
speak
fact.
in defense of it.
That
Pardon?
was after the fact.
It was after the fact.
That's what I'm saying. When we presented to the public, to get this as a city, we presented it as getting it as a parking lot. That's why we got PBR.
I think the
Was it
public
presented-
changed its mind.
Was it presented as a parking lot and we're gonna tear down the building? I'm not so sure about. I don't recall hearing that. I think it is a parking lot. We got 200 and some odd parking spaces now. And the building.
And I would like to say that we purchased it 6 years ago, but Mark Snyder worked for years trying to acquire that because he saw it as a potential gem for the city. And yeah, it's in the rough, but the Heritage Center itself was in support of it. And so it's not like it's without value just because we saw it one way and then more information came forward and now we see it a
I'm
different
totally not
way.
disagreeing with that.
Okay.
So I wonder if there's some opportunity, once we get the library information, that we look at and say, okay, well, assuming that, the three organizations get 30,000, that perhaps if there's additional funds that Hiawatha could get that, so we could do something with Hiawatha as opposed to.
So, I mean, this is up for discussion, I mean, but at the same time, I mean, the estimate from 2 years ago was that it would take $2.1 million, there's $300,000+ sitting in an account. Right now earmarked for that expenditure, it would seem that there would be ways to, through the pursuance of grants, to mitigate that expense in order to expedite the injection of funds into any initiative for Hiawatha Gardens. The only thing that I think we're asking is that the Carnegie Building is at the plate, and that Hiawatha Gardens is on deck. Comparatively speaking, as per the discussion that we've had,
Yeah.
we would love nothing better than, to pay off the library building 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now, so that all that money floods to the Hiawatha Gardens project. But we would like to see the Carnegie Building repaired.
Who's gonna take on the role of, and do we set some goals about exactly what you described? We could say, well, we'll apply for grants and then either the city doesn't allocate staff or the project manager doesn't get it done and it just falls through the wayside and then we need more bonds. Or somebody says, you know what, I'm gonna raise $500,000 for the library. So the question is, how do we get that institutionalized, if you will, that direction to say, we are gonna try to raise some money for that building?
I do think that $500,000 is gonna be, is tough, because obviously we've been trying to raise $1 million for 20 years. And so, in terms of grants and Alphamar and all those organizations, they're coming in at, I don't know, $20,000, $40,000. John, can you talk for a second about funding libraries through grants?
Yeah, and I was just saying, where is the expertise and the time going to come from to do that work? Not so much how much the ultimate result, because we won't know. The question is, are we gonna allocate some expertise and some resources to do that? That's really the question.
So I would say Hiawatha Gardens needs the same thing.
Absolutely.
So it'd be great if whomever the city, if the city hires a grant writer, that they work on all their city buildings simultaneously. That'd be fantastic.
Well, we don't have that. That's what I'm trying to figure out, is how we're gonna budget that in,
Right.
who's gonna budget that in, how do we get that done?
So if we take the 10,000 of Hiawatha, and then we find 10,000 from the Carnegie, then we have 20,000 to potentially put together toward a grant writer, is that what
There you go, right? I'm looking for some intention to do it and a plan to make it happen.
So I would suggest that you're sitting across the table from some very motivated citizens that would probably be willing to put their energy and effort into finding those ends.
Okay, that would be great.
We would probably put a shoulder to that.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that's what I'm looking for, so
Yeah.
who's gonna get that done? I think funding the Carnegie Building has got to be a lot easier than funding Hiawatha. That's just my guess. I don't know if that's true or not, but no, it's not, John? A great historic building versus, I don't know how you would describe it.
It's a great historic building that's being used officially as a city building, not as a library.
Well, just the nature of the building lends itself to people wanting to preserve that building.
I do think you're right that
We've
people.
had this discussion.
Yeah.
You know my
But I do
feelings
think
on
that
it.
people do tend to donate when they think it's gonna get done.
No, I agree.
So I think you're right. I think that if this were to pass and people knew it was gonna get done and we just needed an additional whatever, you're right, people will open their checkbooks more readily than if they don't think it's gonna get done.
Our intent also is, we recognize that the job's not done on November 5th. That it continues, in fact, for quite some time.
Right.
And so we intend to keep at this.
So we're about 45 minutes. We haven't spent much time, and I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on the tier 2 at this point. Presumably somebody's gonna come up with what Nancy started the discussion with the criteria and so forth and so on. obviously the list that's on here isn't, that's just an example list. There's not gonna be a list, I assume, it's just gonna be
Follow
a
the-
criteria. Here's what here's what it takes to apply, here's the process, here's the scoring, et cetera, and then that will flow out from it. Okay. Anything else that we need to discuss on this? How do you want to? Yeah, Marcy.
I just have a question, I have numerous questions, but one question which was unclear to me in only reading, not reading the material, but from the newspaper, is the year that you have set for the 25 years. If I recall correctly, I believe that Natalie, you at one time mentioned that you had looked at the program that was started up in Denver for the science and arts and culture. And I believe that of course covers about 6 counties, and they bring in about $38 million a year. And they have appointed a committee, each commissioner from a county, each commissioners appoint people to that committee, so it's a very formalized process. But I believe I also heard you say that that every 12 years there is an election, or if someone else, I think someone else in Denver told me this, that they have an election for the public every 12 years as to whether they're pleased with the process of this program. If it doesn't run 25 years.
My understanding was the
Hold on a
first one was
second,
31 years, just
Natalie,
a part, maybe it
hold
was
on a second.
31.
I just wanna repeat briefly the comments so that we can, I didn't have to come up here. Former Mayor Morrison's question was about the time period, I believe. And
Right.
how did the 25 years come about,
Right.
as opposed to a shorter time, which had been
Right,
the one
because,
that was done up
only
in the-
because as I hear so much of the conversation, it tells me that, you know, the community changes, the nonprofits may change in their direction, people change who are on those nonprofits, so I wonder about the length of time. And I think that's a question that will be raised, I think, at election time for those who will be voting.
So the question was about the length of time on the ballot issue.
25
How do you
years.
want to address that?
Well, it's my understanding that the first round was 31 years, and then now they do 12, but I could be wrong.
There is one thing that has never been discussed that I'm a little hesitant to bring up. But that is the topic of if you're trying to find 25,000, I mean, I'm hearing numbers that there's $25,000 gap between the 125,000 and the 150,000. It could be the upward realm of this. One negotiation that you could have to get this money is the fact that the library rents the current facility. And if the facility is drastically improved to the point that this will lead it to, I think I can very safely speak for my board that we would be willing to pay more than the $8,000 a year that we are right now. And so
I'm gonna repeat that for the record. Well, I appreciate your
No,
comment.
I mean, and mind you, this is of course contingent on my board's approval. We are still subject to TABOR, so we have non-appropriations clauses. There's all of that, but even the current lease as it's written gives you the right to establish the rent at any dollar amount that you see fit. Then it becomes the province of PPLD to make a decision as to whether that rent is still worth what we're getting out of it. So that implies that there would be negotiation that would occur. We have spoken, I mean, for PPLD, we've spoken very often about what we would do in terms of FF&E and the expanded services that we will offer out of that building. The one thing that we have not said, but I think needs to be said as we get closer and closer to dollar amounts, is that a building that is substantially larger and in much better shape would command a better rent, and we would be willing to pay that.
Great. Thank you, John, appreciate that comment. That is a great source to bridge some of that gap, absolutely.
Remind me to go get drinks with him.
But my point about the 25 years, again, I bring that up for discussion. 25 years in people's minds who are voters, it seems like a very, very long time. And breaking up this dollar amount to the nonprofits plus the library itself,
I bring that up and I don't know how that was come about.
So I can comment just from council's perspective, some wanted less and some wanted more, and some wanted none. And, I think the comment to us was, in order to bond this, 25-year would be at least a minimum to get some appropriate bonding funding. That's as I understood where
Did
they
we have someone come in and give us any guidance from a bonding company who usually come in and do this free of charge because they know they're selling you something?
The city did not.
We
I
did
don't know
employ bond counsel, but we did also, work with Becca and the finance department.
Becca from the finance department.
So because those folks can't be here, we did, as a reminder, 424 folks signed, a document that suggested that this should be indefinite. So that was our starting point, 360 of which were registered electors in the city of Manitou Springs. They can't be here, they can't speak. So
Well, we're not gonna, I think it's a, it's just asking for
They're not getting
questions.
into the numbers of.
The number's been decided. I think,
Sure.
Mrs. Morrison was asking for some clarification, how did it come about. We're not debating what the number should be, because it's in the ballot.
But that's what got us to
Said
the
that
table.
But you are correct, we're gonna have to
Yeah.
work really hard.
Other questions from council?
No questions, but I would just like to say that I'm appreciative that, this group and council seem to be working as a team now as opposed to opposite intent, so I find it somewhat exciting.
I would echo that. Thank you for doing that. You didn't have to, so I agree. Well, sort of did, sort of didn't, but for whatever reason, thank you. I appreciate that as well. And I'm assuming though the next conversation is perhaps after November. I don't know, we could continue to work on a memorandum, et cetera, whatever it might be, or you guys can go out there and get out and beat the bushes on the ballot issue, and then there's plenty of time to work out the detail.
I think we have had a request from voters in the community that they would like some understanding of the distribution so that we are campaigning for something.
Well, it's pretty hard, you can't say you're gonna get 30,000, because you could say maybe you'd get 15, but then maybe not, depending on what the library needs. So it's a little hard to pin that down, unless you can come up with some library numbers quicker, sooner than later.
I think that even if you could say something to the effect of, city council is aware of the understanding of the distribution of funding and will do its best to represent the residents' requests, something to so we need to be able to say something. We can't just say, we'll see next year. I mean, we can, but I don't think that's an effective, way to win an election. That people are gonna say, again, how much will go toward the library? Like, will we be able to do something with this money? And I think we need to be able to say we will be able to do something with this money. I do think that's really important.
And so what are you asking?
I do think that, it would be great, even if we had a draft MOU, it would be fantastic.
So you wanna work on that, is that what you're saying?
I mean, we consider what was, hammered out last month and sort of an interim agreement because we don't have anything
I mean,
else
this is a work
no,
session.
it's a work,
But a head nod that this is close would be really helpful.
Okay, folks, what's your pleasure?
I think it's very close.
Close.
Should be, you think people really want dollar figures, not percentages?
I think percentages are fine. I
I
think
mean-
they would
It's
just
already in the ballot measure, it's in the language.
Well, just for those two, but not in terms of the library, I want,
Yeah.
I think folks we just need to be able to say,
Yeah, I
say
agree.
promise something, we need to promise the results.
Yep.
I don't think-
So it sounds like to me we could say that library is the top priority and that will get funded fully. The other groups will be split equally. A percentage to be determined, approximate percentage, based upon the needs of the library. And
No, the percentages would be the same, but the
dollar amount.
yeah, dollar amount would change, absolutely, yes.
So
And it would, and the dollar amount, to be clear, would change annually because of the sale, the amount that was collected would change. So we have to operate in percentages for that reason,
Okay.
so.
So I'm hearing Jay is fine with direction to move forward with as laid out here. Okay, Susan? Okay. I'm not comfortable, I'd like Hiawatha to be further, to have more, but I don't want it to come from the library. I don't want it to come from the other groups, I want it to come from the information we get, so I don't know quite how to articulate that. Meaning, I I'd like more money to be for grants and so forth for the library in Hiawatha, and then we figure out how to go. I'm not comfortable with Hiawatha sitting there for 20 years.
I don't think.
Like the library.
Like the library.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I'm fine with this as a draft document.
I'm fine.
So I think you have sort of a quasi-majority-ish.
It gives us something to work with, which is what we want.
And I'd also like to thank Jay and Gary for bridging this
Yeah.
gap that we had.
Thank you.
It was tough.
It was tough.
The stuff in the building, the air conditioning, the
Yeah.
spa.
Something tells me beer was involved.
No beer, no beer, no beer, she didn't even.
Oh, and I do wanna mention that we added additional people to the painting, so we're continuing to add to the ballot for the meeting.
How that flying.
About 10 more people.
Alright, we're gonna take a short break, before we move into a special meeting.
Everybody there for that, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Did you bring carrots instead? I said to Santa, it's a good job that you
So again, for the record, I've been carrying that